On the 21st of May 2008, Manchester United beat Chelsea on penalties in Moscow to become champions of Europe. 103 days later, Manchester City became the richest football club on the planet. Both things happened. Both cannot sit comfortably together. Go back to that summer. Picture it. United have just won the Premier League and the Champions League in the same season. They have Cristiano Ronaldo. They have Wayne Rooney. They have Sir Alex Ferguson. City finished 9th. They have not won the league since 1968. They play in a stadium built for the Commonwealth Games. Then on the 1st of September, a company from Abu Dhabi buys them for about £210 million, and in the last hour of the transfer window breaks the British transfer record. How does a club that far behind suddenly matter? That outcome is the shadow. And you do not understand it yet. You have to feel how big Manchester United were in 2008. They had won 10 Premier League titles in 16 seasons. They had just taken their 17th English League title. Only Liverpool had more with 18. United were champions of England by 2 points from Chelsea. They had gone unbeaten in the Champions League. They beat Lyon. They beat Roma. They beat Barcelona. They earned 87 points in the league. They scored 80 goals. Their manager had been there since 1986. Their stadium held more than 74,000 people. Every week it was full. Their commercial revenue alone was over £189 million, even in a bad year later. Their brand was valued at over £789 million. When people outside England heard the word Manchester, they thought of one club, and it was not City. If you like honest Manchester United stories that look past the scoreline, give this video a like and subscribe to Manchester United Fan View. It helps us make more films like this. Now look at the other half. In 2007, a former Prime Minister of Thailand bought Manchester City for about £81.6 million. He took a 75% stake. A year later, he sold it. The buyer was the Abu Dhabi United Group. The man behind it was Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Deputy Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, Chairman of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. He paid roughly £210 million. Overnight, City could outbid anyone. On that same day, they bid for Dimitar Berbatov to stop United getting him. They failed. Then they signed Robinho from Real Madrid for £32.5 million. A British record that night. Think about that choice. Why Manchester City? The easy answer feels satisfying. It feels grown up. It says this was business, not romance, not rivalry, cold numbers. City were cheap. City had a modern stadium built for the 2002 Commonwealth Games. City had land. They had the City of Manchester Stadium holding 47,000 then. Expandable. They had East Manchester, acres of disused industrial land, polluted, empty, cheap. The council wanted regeneration. Abu Dhabi United Group wanted a project bigger than football. They could build a campus. They could build houses. They could put Abu Dhabi on the map in England without paying a London price. If you had £210 million in September 2008, you could not buy Manchester United. The Glazers had loaded it with £700 million of debt, but they would not sell. You could not buy Liverpool or Arsenal easily. City were available. City were cheap. City were willing. So that is why. Business. And the evidence piles up. Go to East Manchester today. The Etihad campus sits on 80 acres of former industrial land. Abu Dhabi United Group spent £50 million just cleaning it. The City Football Academy alone cost £200 million. It opened in December 2014. Chancellor George Osborne cut the ribbon. The council and Abu Dhabi United Group formed a joint venture called Manchester Life. Their plan was 6,000 new homes, a £1 billion housing initiative across Ancoats and New Islington. Both neighbourhoods sit next to the Etihad. The stadium itself is now being expanded past 60,000. With a hotel, with a museum, over £300 million of fresh investment. None of that happens at Old Trafford. Old Trafford is hemmed in by houses and a railway line. City offered blank land, a Labour council desperate for jobs, a Commonwealth Stadium already built. Take Manchester out of it. Any city with that deal looks attractive. You can even make the numbers talk. Between August 2008 and January 2018, Manchester City spent £1,350 million on players, plus £250 million on facilities. In 2008, that spending looked unmatched. Yet look at net spend since. Manchester City about £1.27 billion. Manchester United about £1.12 billion. The gap is only about £150 million over 15 years. City spent more but not astronomically more than United. Chelsea spent more in some windows. So the takeover was not just buying trophies, it was buying potential at a low entry price. £210 million for a Premier League club in England's second city with a new ground. That is the satisfying answer. It lets you be both clever and neutral. City were a property deal with a football club attached. If you believe that you can stop watching, but you would be wrong. Here is what that clever answer leaves out. The word Manchester. Say it in Shanghai. Say it in Lagos. Say it in New York. People picture red shirts. They picture Old Trafford. They picture Munich in 1968 and Fergie. Manchester City were not selling the word Manchester to Abu Dhabi. Manchester United had already sold it for them for 50 years. Think about the deal. Abu Dhabi did not need a football club. The ruling family has sovereign wealth measured in hundreds of billions. The hydrocarbon income from ADNOC alone dwarfs any football revenue. If you want a property project, buy land. You do not need to break a transfer record on Robinho. If you want a Premier League club, buy any club. Blackburn were cheaper. Portsmouth were cheaper. But they are not Manchester. And Manchester without United is just a northern English city of about 550,000 people. Manchester with United is a global brand. Go back further than 2008. Picture February 1958. 8 Manchester United players die in the Munich air disaster. Manager Matt Busby survives. He rebuilds. 10 years later, United become the first English club to win the European Cup. They beat Benfica 4-1 at Wembley. Bobby Charlton scores twice. That story goes around the world. Then fast forward. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, United win 13 Premier League titles between 1993 and 2013. 2 Champions Leagues. They become the most valuable sports franchise on earth according to Forbes in 2012 at $2.23 billion. By 2024, they are still valued at $6.6 billion with $834 million of revenue in 2023-24. Despite finishing 8th. That is the machine. That is the marketing. When Sheikh Mansour's advisors put Manchester City on a slide, the first line was not stadium capacity. It was city name recognition. Manchester already means United. Now you are thinking what every City fan is screaming at this screen. And you should hear it in their voice properly. It is ruder than you would put it. It goes like this. Oh, piss off, you deluded Red. You finished 8th last season. You have not won the league since 2013. That was 11 years ago. City have won 6 of the last 7 titles. They got 100 points in 2018. They won 4 in a row from 2021 to 2024. No English club has ever done that. They won the treble in 2023. Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League. You are clinging to history because you have nothing now. You talk about shadows because you cannot talk about table. That is the objection. And part of it is completely right. On the pitch, City have been better. Not sometimes. For years. If shadow meant results, you could end the film here. But shadow was never about who is better. Shadow is about who defines the other. And City still define themselves through United. Take the first day of the project. The 1st of September 2008. United signed Dimitar Berbatov for about £30 million after a chase all summer. City tried to hijack him. Berbatov himself later said City wanted him, but he told his agent, F off, we are going to Manchester United. He chose red over blue, when blue had more money that evening. City then panic buy Robinho for £32.5 million. He had been expected to join Chelsea that morning. Chelsea were closing in on him until City's takeover changed everything. That is not a banter story. It is a branding story. On the day you become the richest club in the world, your marquee signing was meant for someone else. That is shadow in one sentence. Now add it up. Since 2011, City have won the Premier League 8 times. 2012, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, if you count 4 in a row, that is 8 in 13 seasons. They won the FA Cup in 2011 and again in 2019 and 2023. They won the League Cup 6 times between 2014 and 2021. They got 100 points in 2017-18, 32 wins, 106 goals, record points, record wins, record goals. All in 1 year under the man brought from Bayern Munich in 2016 called Pep Guardiola. He has won 6 Premier League titles himself, including 4 straight. Take any other city, that would make you the undisputed biggest club in that city forever. Take it to Manchester. And the next morning the papers still lead with what United did. Because in Manchester the question is never how good is City. The question is how good is City compared to United. Picture the hard metrics. Old Trafford capacity 74,197. Etihad 52,900. After expansion, even 60,000, still smaller. United average attendance 75,638 in recent measured seasons. City 42,069 in the same comparison. More than 30,000 per week difference. Broadcasting audience. The Manchester Derby in April 2012 drew 4.049 million in the UK and an estimated 650 million worldwide. The most watched derby in America was Manchester United versus Manchester City in 2017, with 1.72 million viewers. Total audience delivery. United social following 87.6 million at last detailed count, 28% of the entire Premier League total, more than the other 16 clubs combined, after you remove Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea. Silver Lake bought 10% of City Football Group, at $4.8 billion valuation in 2019. Forbes still values United at $6.6 billion. Higher than City, despite finishing 8th. That tells you what shadow means. It is not empty stadiums. City fill theirs. It is not money. City have money. It is reference. Every City achievement is announced with United as the first sentence. City win the league in 2012 with Sergio Aguero's 94th minute goal. The headline is, they pipped Manchester United on goal difference. 0 points difference, plus 8 goal difference. City win the title in 2014. The story is, they took it while United finished 7th under David Moyes. City win 4 in a row. The story is, United have not won one since 2013. City win the treble. The comparison instantly becomes United's treble in 1999. Which treble was better? Which club did it first? You never hear United compared to City to prove United are big. You always hear City compared to United to prove City are big. That direction is the shadow. Take the man who actually won most of those titles. Brought from Bavaria in 2016 after winning the Bundesliga 3 times with Bayern. And 14 honours with Barcelona, including 2 Champions Leagues. Pep Guardiola. He did not say, I want to beat United. He said, I want to be the best. But every press conference in Manchester becomes about United. Every derby becomes about levels. When City beat United 2-1 at Old Trafford in December 2017 to go 14 games unbeaten, the American TV audience was 902,000 on NBCSN, plus 495,000 on Telemundo. Combined 1.397 million. The biggest Premier League number on Spanish-language TV that season. Why? Because United were the draw. Even losing United were the draw. Guardiola could fill a stadium with football. He could not fill a narrative without United on the other side. Walk it. Go to Manchester on a wet Tuesday. Start at Old Trafford. It holds the river. It holds the Munich clock. It holds the statues of Busby and Charlton and Best and Law. Then get the tram to the Etihad. 10 minutes east. You pass terraced houses. You pass the Ashton Canal. You arrive at a bright bowl. Silver. Modern. Sponsored by an airline from the owner's home state. The training ground next door is pristine. The academy building is glass. Everything works. Then listen. Ask a teenager in Shanghai on a video call which Manchester club he knows. He says United. Ask a taxi driver in Lagos who he supports. He says United or Arsenal. Ask a kid in Bradford which club his dad took him to first. He might say City. But the world kid says United. That is not an insult to City. It is geography. City built a campus. United built a century. And here is where the skeptic is right, and I will say it plainly. Because you are right to push me. Manchester City were right to choose East Manchester. The business case was real. The council needed them. The land was cheap and available. The stadium was ready. The Premier League place was secure. For an investor wanting influence in England, quickly there was no better deal than Manchester City in September 2008. And the football case since has been overwhelming. City have run themselves brilliantly. They hired Chikziki Begiristain. They hired Ferran Soriano. They hired Pep Guardiola. They built City Football Group to own clubs in New York and Melbourne and Girona. That model is now copied. United have had the opposite. Bad recruitment, debt, ownership protests, managers sacked, finishing 8th. You are right. City have been the better-run club for 15 years. If you measure shadow by competence, City stepped out of it long ago. But competence does not break narrative. Narrative is older and heavier. United have 20 English League titles, 13 of them since 1993. No one else has that. They have 3 European Cups. They have the Munich story. They have the Busby Babes. They have the Ferguson comeback in 1999, scoring twice in injury time against Bayern Munich. Those stories are taught to children who were not born when they happened. City's stories are 14 major domestic trophies since 2008. Impressive. Huge. But they are still dated from 2008. United's stories start in 1902, when Newton Heath became Manchester United. Start in 1910 when they moved to Old Trafford. Start in 1958. When you tell City's story, you have to start with United's name. That is the cost of buying Manchester when Manchester already belonged to someone else in the world's head. You bought the city. You did not buy the meaning. Look at the global map. Forbes in 2023 still put Real Madrid first at about 6 billion plus. United second at 3.8 billion then, now 6.6. City fifth at 2.69 billion at that point. Deloitte Money League for 2024 put Real Madrid first at 831 million euros revenue. City second at 826 million. United eighth? No. United moved back to second in earlier years, but by 2024 were at 745.8 million. Still top 10, never out of it. Even in a season where they finished 8th, they generated $834 million. City generate more on match days now because of success. But United generate more from the name. When Americans set records watching the Premier League, it is often the derby. When the world watches an FA Cup final, it is City versus United in 2023 and 2024. City win 1, United win 1. The audience comes because both names are there. City alone does not do that number, United alone does. So did Sheikh Mansour choose Manchester City, partly because Manchester United had already made the word Manchester famous. The honest answer is yes and no. No, because the commercial conditions made it possible. Without the cheap land, and the willing council, and the available club at 210 million, there is no deal. Yes, because without Manchester United, the word Manchester does not carry that deal around the world. His advisors knew it. The first press release did not say, "We have bought a club with 47,000 capacity." It said, "We have bought Manchester City." The city name did the work, and that name had been branded by Red for decades. You can test it. It's the same stadium and land were in Stoke. Would the Abu Dhabi United Group have paid the same and got the same global headlines? No chance. The story exploded because it was Manchester. And Manchester was already famous. There is one more piece that City fans feel, but do not always say. The shadow is not about winning. It is about being wanted. When a kid in Asia gets his first shirt, who does he ask for? When a sponsor wants to enter football, who do they call first? For 20 years, every commercial presentation in football started with United equals Manchester. City had to say also Manchester. Also Manchester is still second. That is why the Etihad project included houses and schools and a training ground bigger than anything United had. They had to build a city inside a city to own the word. United never had to build houses to be Manchester. They just were. That difference cost City more than £1 billion in land and buildings to close. And they closed it. But closing a deficit proves the deficit existed. Living in a shadow does not mean you cannot build a tower taller than the one casting it. It just means people still describe your tower as next to that one. Think about what happens next. City's owners now run City Football Group, valued at $4.8 billion after Silver Lake bought 10%. United's Glazer era is fracturing with Jim Ratcliffe buying a minority. Both clubs face new stadiums. United's is planned beyond 60,000, maybe more than Old Trafford's 74,000. City's expansion to over 60,000 will be finished by next season. The football will swing. It always does. Pep will go, someone else will come, United will eventually win a league again. It may be soon, it may be 5 years, but when they do, what will the headline be? United are back. And in the second paragraph, someone will write, they have finally caught City. The shadow question will still be there. Can City ever be the reference without United falling to nothing? Can you be the biggest club in Manchester in the world's eyes, while the world's eyes learned the word Manchester from the other club? So where does that leave the argument I started with? I cannot stand Manchester City. I said that honestly at the start. But this is not about who I like. Manchester City have been the better team for long stretches. They have produced football United at our best would applaud. 100 points. Domestic treble. 4 in a row. Those are facts. They will win more. They may win more than United in the next 10 years. And still the shadow will remain, because the shadow is not made of trophies. It is made of meaning. Meaning was built on February 1958, when 8 players died and the club went on. It was built on May 1968, when United lifted the European Cup at Wembley and became England's first champions of Europe. It was built on 20 titles and 13 Premier League titles, and a global audience of 650 million for a derby. City bought the word Manchester, but United had already written the definition. And here is the unresolved question I promised. If City win 10 more titles, and United win none for the next decade, does the shadow finally fade? Or will the world still introduce City as the club from the city of Manchester United? That is not a taunt. That is a test of how branding outlives winning. And only time in Manchester will answer it. So watch the next derby, not for the score, but for whose name the commentator says first. That first name is the shadow. Still,